Alright, this week we're going to continue solving equations. We're just going to use this week to review everything we've done in the last couple weeks. Right? So after this lesson, we should all be able to successfully record the process of solving linear equations that are in various forms, so involving brackets and fractions. And we're also going to get used to using the method of substitution to verify your solutions. You're going to use this video to follow along this lesson, and then for extra practice you can use your math workbook, and extra resources you can go back to week 6, 7, and 8 lessons if you need to review certain concepts. At the end of this there will be a task and a check-in on D2L. Alright, so solving linear equations review, some key points are, from last week, we have to simplify any sides with brackets using distributive property, or we're going to divide both sides by the numerical coefficient in front of the brackets. Okay, so what that means is if we have 5x plus 2 is equal to 10, okay, we can either distribute this and make this into 5x plus 10 is equal to 10. Okay, so this is using distributive property. So using distributive property, I can use this, or I can divide both sides by the numerical coefficient. The numerical coefficient in this case is the 5, because 5 is what's in front of the brackets, and we can divide by 5 on both sides, and we end up with x plus 2 is equal to 2. Okay, so those are the two methods from last week's lesson. Alright, so when we solve for equations, our ultimate goal is to isolate the variable. That variable is most of the times x, but it can be in other letters as well. And to isolate the variable, you're going to follow the order of Sam, Deb, which is opposite of BEDMAS. So you're going to do subtraction, addition ones first, multiplying and dividing ones next. You don't have to worry about exponents when solving equations yet, to isolate the variable. And then lastly, always remember to verify your solution. Substitute the value of the unknown to check to see if your equation is true, okay? So for this unit, you should know already if you got a question right or wrong. There's a way for you to check right here, right? Last week and the week before, we always had word problems at the end of the task as well. I'm just going to go over how we can approach word problems involving linear equations. All right, first thing we're going to do is we're going to declare a variable. Okay, what is the unknown in the problem? What is the problem asking us to find? And then we're going to slowly translate the sentence into a math sentence, okay? So looking at this question, we have a flower garden is in the shape of a rectangle. So that is important information. We have a rectangular shape. The length of the garden is 2 meters longer than the length of the shed beside it. The width of the garden is 4. And the area of the garden is 20 meters squared, okay? So that's a lot of information there, but we're going to come back to it, okay? But at the end, ultimately, what is the question asking us? It's asking us, what is the length of the shed? That's what we don't know. So we're going to declare a variable. We're going to say x is equal to length of the shed, okay? All right, we know what length of the shed, well, we don't know what it is, but we said we're going to use x to represent the length of the shed, okay? But let's actually look back to the question. Where else does it say the word length of the shed? Then we can replace it all with x, okay? It says the length of the garden is 2 meters longer than the length of the shed. So the garden is 2 meters than the length of the shed. So the length of the garden, we're going to say, is length of the garden is 2 meters longer than, so we're going to add 2 to the length of the shed, and we said x is going to represent the length of the shed, okay? And we also know that the width of the garden is equal to 4 meters. And it gave us the area, and it's asking for the length of the shed. Okay, now we have to use the information we have to figure out the area of the garden. To calculate the area of a rectangle, we have to go length times width, and this is equal to x plus 2 times 4. Okay, but like you've seen before, whenever we have a number and a bracket, the number comes before the bracket, so I can rearrange this to 4 times x plus 2. Okay, but that's not the only information we have. If we go back to the question, it also tells us the area of the garden is 20 meters squared. Okay, so I can write 20 meters squared like this. Okay, now I have a linear equation that I can solve. Okay, so in order for me to solve, I'm just going to write 20 is equal to 4x plus 2. I'll use distributive property. I have 20 is equal to 4x plus 8. And I'm going to isolate now from my variable x. Okay. Now I take away 8 on both sides. 12 is equal to 4x divided by 4 on both sides. X is equal to 3. Okay. We said, going back to our problem, x is going to represent the length of the shed, and x is equal to 3. So the length of the shed is equal to 3 meters. Okay, we don't want to forget our units. Okay, so we just end with length of shed is 3 meters. That's it. Okay, so see how we had to declare a variable first. So figure out what is the question ultimately asking us to find. So x is equal to what they're asking us to find. Translate each of this into a math sentence. Length of the garden is 2 meters longer than the length. 2 meters longer than the length of the shed, which is x. Width of the garden is 4 meters. The area of the garden is 20 meters squared. So 20 meters square area is equal to length times width, 4 times brackets x plus 2. And then I went from there to solve my equation. All right? Okay, now on the second page, what I'm just going to do is I'm just going to show my work solving different types of linear equations. You can use this as a reference as you do your assignments. Right? So the first one, we're starting with negative 3x plus 5. I'm going to take away 5 on both sides, and I have negative 3x left, and this gives me 18 on this side. I need to divide by negative 3x. Remember, don't ignore negatives. And I have 18 divided by negative 3, so that gives me a negative 6. Okay, I'm not done yet because I need to verify my solution. So to verify, I rewrite my equation. And I'm just going to do one side first with when x is equal to negative 6. Negative 3 times, oh sorry, I rewrote the question wrong. Okay, I'm just going to rewrite this. I have negative 3 times negative 6 plus 5 has to equal 23. Let's deal with the left side first. That's 18 plus 5. That gives me 23 on this side and 23 on the right side. So that means my answer is correct. Okay, I'm going to do this one. Doesn't matter if the variable is on the right side. Okay, you just do the same process. I need to isolate for this x right here. Take away 10 by adding 10 to both sides. And I have 4 is equal to negative 2x because negative 10 plus 10 cancels out. And then I have to divide by negative 2 to get rid of the negative 2. And I have negative 2 is equal to x. Doesn't matter if I have my variable on the left or the right. Okay, to verify, I just go negative 6 is equal to negative 2 times negative 2 minus 10. That gives me negative 2 times 2 is 4 minus 10 is negative 6. I have negative 6 on both sides, so this works. Right, this one again, in this case it's in a fraction form. That's okay. We're gonna do subtraction or addition first, so we're gonna get rid of the 17 first by adding it on both sides. Cancels out. I have x over 3 left is equal to 30, and to get rid of the 3 because it's getting divided, I'm gonna times it by 3 on both sides. Cancels it out. X is equal to 90. Let's verify this. 90 over 3 minus 17 must equal 13. 90 over 3, 30 minus 17, 13 is equal to 13. This is good. All right, this one now. We have x over here, but we have a number in front of our variable and the coefficient, okay? This 3 right now is a positive 3, so I need to take away 3. Because then I have 3 minus 3, that gives me a 0, so that cancels out. And I have negative 5x on this side and 15 on this side. Remember to carry out this negative because we haven't dealt with that one yet, right? Take away negative 5 on both sides. X is equal to negative 3. Let's verify. This works, so it is correct. Okay. All right, this one now, we have a bracket situation. Because we use the distributive property for a word problem here, I'm going to use the division method, okay? So I can start by dividing by 7 on both sides, because that is the numerical coefficient here. So that cancels out, and I have 7 is equal to x plus 4. I don't need the brackets there anymore, because there's nothing else around it, right? To get rid of the 4, I have to subtract it on both sides, and I have 3 is equal to x. Okay, I just have to confirm that, verify that on here. 49 is equal to 7. Let's see if this works. 7 plus 3 plus 4 is 7. That gives me 49. 49, yes, it is equal to 49. Okay, so we got this one right as well. All right, in this case, we have a negative. We're taking away a minus 30. Okay, look what this is. When you have a negative and a negative together, this actually becomes a positive. Remember, when you're subtracting with integers, when you're subtracting, you add the opposite. So this becomes adding a positive 30. So this actually changes to adding 30 like this. Okay, so at first you might see double negatives here and you might be like, oh, I don't know how to do this. But when you actually simplify it and remember your integer subtraction, you're adding the opposites, you're adding 30. So you're adding positive 30, so it becomes a simple one right here. Take away 30, 35 is equal to x. Okay, so let's try it over here using verification. 35 minus 30. 35 plus 30 becomes 65, and that's equal to 65. So that is good. All right, so in this lesson, all we did was review what we've been doing in the last 3 weeks, okay? So same thing, you're gonna follow the main ideas when solving equations. If you're struggling with word problems, go back to how I did this question over here. Come to our tutorial so that we can go over more word problems as well, right? Don't forget to do your quizzes on D2L.